Welcome to the Drawing Solo podcast. My name is Mason McKinney, and I'm with.
You're with Tsotelo Nzanani, but I go under the alias Chacer.
Nice. And if you want to find out how to get inspiration from anywhere, make sure you sign up to the newsletter and get a free ebook that'll show you how to do so. My gift to you. So, Chaser, you say?
Yes, Chacer.
Where are you from?
I am actually from South Africa and I'm 16. I've been working on Krilko since I was 5 years of age. No, wait, nah, since grade five, sorry. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the manga has just been getting better and better. I've been working. Sometimes I stop, sometimes I just get lazy, but you know, I like doing it. It's a nice passion for me.
Nice. Why do you have any reason why you create manga?
Um, Mainly because I like fixing things that are broken. I remember I watched the popular anime Naruto, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was so much wrong with the war arc. And I just remember complaining so much that I gotta fix this and they doing that wrong and this wrong. So then I started with Kyoko, the manga name by the way, and I just started loving telling stories. I love telling stories about things that I think of, my life, other people's lives. And it's just a nice thing to be able to create things that you can be proud of. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely, I get what you're talking about. Can you name your manga one more time and tell us what it's about in 7 words?
7 words. Okay. The manga's name is Krilko, spelled Crealco. And it's about a boy who is born into a rich family and he doesn't know the struggles of life, so he has to learn the hard way. That's all I'm gonna say.
A boy that's from a rich family and he learns the struggles of life the hard way. Okay,
Yeah.
nice. What was the inspiration for that one? What? Yeah,
That
what
was
are your
actually
inspirations?
that the story of the main character was actually from the character in One Piece, Doflamingo.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I took inspiration from that, but the whole manga itself is every anime I've watched combined with my creative mind in it. So it's like it's everything. It's a hint of Naruto, a hint of One Piece, a hint of Bleach, splash of Demon Slayer, hint of Attack on Titan. It's all that. But I just take different elements from the stories, then I make sure to be original as well. I can't just copy it. So I take the stuff that I need, the emotional impacts, all that, and combine it with my story. And that's Kyoko. I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be the greatest manga of all time. I can say that right now, confidently.
Nice, nice. Like you need to have that self confidence in order to make something that you're proud of.
Yeah,
So that's great. I agree with. I have full confidence in you.
yeah, man. It's it's gonna be fire. I can't wait until it's serialized. And I'm working very hard. School's just closed today, so I can finally
Time to get cracking.
really push. Yeah, like time to really, really push, and it's gonna happen, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. What your story kind of said when you described your story, the first thing that came to my mind, I believe it was very similar to what I remember of the story of the Buddha. And
Hmm.
like one, I think it was like one of the Buddhas. There were several Buddhas in
Yeah,
Buddhism, but like one of them that came to my mind was like it was a rich Buddha that wanted that like didn't that was tired of like the lavish life of having any all the women that he wanted, all the money that he wanted.
yeah,
So he decided to like leave the castle and just to explore the world. And he saw like the world of death and disease and poverty and pain.
yeah.
And then he went to meditate, and then anybody who knows the story of the Buddha, they know the story of Buddha. But I know you're trying to go a different route with this. I feel like you're probably going with a different route with this. You didn't.
Yeah, it is. It is quite similar. You are right, but the kid is just like at the start of the story, he's 8 years old, and he does go that route, but then something happens, which I cannot say because it's a big spoiler. But something happens, and yeah, his life changes drastically.
I think it's very interesting when we talk about story when we were talking about like sharing our stories with other people because there was a I was on a podcast with a couple people before, and
Yeah.
one thing that I noticed that's shared with everybody is, well, I guess with the first podcast we were talking about advertising and how people hated how the trailers would spoil everything. But then I
Yeah.
had the counterpoint that it's human nature to be interested to be interested in things, to
Right.
not be surprised. So the reason why a lot of trailers
Mm,
have spoilers in them is that the audience will understand what they're getting into. If
mm,
something doesn't deliver, they won't feel cheated. That's a
yeah.
subconscious thing. And I notice with a lot of artists, they feel like they don't want to spoil anything about their story, but at the same time, you're telling your idea to a completely different person that has never heard of, that
Mm,
was born without knowing your story, and if you
yeah.
don't grip them right away, they can like live their entire life without it. So I don't.
Yeah, man.
So like I guess there's like a good balance that people can take when it comes to telling their story or sharing their story with other people. That's
Mm-hmm.
that you may need to spoil some things, but I notice like when you spoil things to other people, they get more invested because
That is true. That is true.
honestly, that's my understanding. Because like when I sell my books in the market, I just tell people, well, my first book, Purgatory Academy, I tell people what it's about and what happens, what it's about, the themes I'm trying to go
Yeah.
for, and what happens in the end. And everybody's like, oh wow, that's really cool. And then they just buy the entire book and they just see how a character gets to point A to point B. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
very, I notice that a lot. Uh, and I think people shouldn't really be afraid to give out spoilers because because like you're when I feel like that's spoiler territory. Being afraid of spoiler territory, you can do
Mm-hmm.
that when people already know, when like you have an audience or a large following of people who are invested
Mm-hmm.
in your
Yeah.
story. But when it's like close and niche, I think it really doesn't matter. Me personally, I really don't think it matters that much because the goal when you're small is to get as many people as interested as possible.
Yeah. Get like
What are your thoughts on
enough
that?
people to read it. Yeah, I do agree with it because if you tell somebody a story and you don't want to spoil and you just keep it very minimal, it's gonna seem kind of boring. Like, to be honest, 100% honest,
Hmm.
it's gonna seem boring. So you gotta give out a little bit of spoilers, and it's gonna suck. But don't give out like the whole story. Don't spoil the big things. You know, you can just give a little bit. Just make sure that the people are gonna be like, "Yo, okay, I'm trying to read this story, or I'm trying to watch this movie, so on and so forth." So I do agree with the statement, and it is true because you really need to kind of get out of your comfort zone and just tell people, but not too much. But you just have to, you know.
Yeah. And also to piggyback off that idea a little bit, because people get into stories for very different reasons. Because I remember I had this one guy I used to chill with. When he wants to get me into a new anime or manga, he said, "Oh, this is cool because this, and this happens. You got a wizard fighting a dragon. You got like all these characters doing some weird, cool, crazy flips, and the animation is cool." And I'm like, I don't care about cool
Yeah.
stuff. I don't care about like jingling key, like adults jingling keys in front of me. I want to know why these characters are fighting. I want to know like what's the intent, what are the themes that they're feeding me, and that's being expressed
Right.
through the jingling keys. But for some people, it's the people are there for the spectacle, while other people are there for the substance. So it like to each his own, I suppose. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, that is actually really true because that just reminded me of this other show, this anime actually I used to watch that had stellar animation, but its story was so bad. Um, yeah, I'm not a I'm gonna hope that I don't get sued or I don't get called out, but I'm just gonna name the anime.
Go ahead.
It's a Chinese anime. It's called I think Fog Hill of the Five Elements or something like that.
Hmm.
And its animation is, I think, personally, the best animation I've seen in all of anime. Truly, it is very amazing. But the story just doesn't make sense. It's so hard to wrap my head around it because every episode there's these new creatures and there's this other form that the main character gets and he's fighting this guy that we don't even know. But then again, the anime is only like 3 episodes. So it is, it's 2 seasons and 3 episodes each. So I do get that they didn't have time, but why would you release it if the story doesn't really connect, doesn't make sense? But then on the other hand, you have I'm gonna take it back to manga actually. Look at the manga of Attack on Titan. The
Hmm.
manga, the artwork is not really the best, but the story is one of the best we've ever seen in anime period, you see? So it is quite weird how some people prefer no story but crazy animation. Some people say no, the story is better. Let's chill off the animation. So yeah, with Kyoko, I'm hoping I can do both. I'm hoping I can achieve both with the story and the animation, but I gotta focus on the manga first.
Yeah, I'm telling people as much as possible. Like I know, like making an anime is like your goal, but I'm noticing that a lot of people miss out on the baby steps to create that anime, and I think the nice in between of making that anime, that making the manga and then the anime, is to get a comic dub going, so to reach a different audience. Because I remember when my friend was posting my the fourth comic that I'm working on, Just a Reaper, around different places, he would get a lot of people saying, "Wow, this is just a cartoon. Why isn't it animated?"
Mhm.
Because people don't like to read. But what I realize when I'm looking at anime, me personally, when I look at anime, I mostly listen to it because anime is more or less a slideshow for a lot of the dialogue scenes, and then
Mhm.
you can get the more or less the same experience just by listening to the characters talk. And when there's a fight scene, you can pay attention. You're like, okay, cool, they're doing this on the third, and then you after the fight scene, you can just like go back to whatever you're doing, and then it just turns into an audio drama again. And I think people can do that, can transfer that to a comic dub, and make it that way it'll be less expensive to have a near anime production, and that's a closer goal when you if you know how to like network with people, talk with people all around the internet, and everybody's down to do a project or so. With pay either so you got people who are willing to do it paid or free, but that's one thing that I want to do in the future because I think that'd be a cool way to reach your audience to a different market, and if it blows up, you can scale accordingly and probably start like a
Yeah.
Kickstarter or crowdfunder to like have it animated since you already have the sound effects and the voice and the voiceovers. I mean
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
Nah, nah, that is true though, because like marketing, that is probably one of the most important steps if you want to get big. Like, yes, you can have the best story in the world, the best artwork in the world, the best artists, translators, everything. But if nobody knows your work, it's gonna be a bit tough to get out there. So, like, I do suggest maybe starting a YouTube channel, maybe going to Instagram, Twitter, just
Hmm.
put yourself out there. Speak to your neighbors, speak to the people at work, speak to the people at school. That's something I realized a lot of people are scared of with the manga because they think that they'll get ridiculed when they speak about them creating manga because it's cartoons, it's childish, this, that, and the third. But you gotta put yourself out there. If you keep it to yourself, trust me, it's gonna stay with you. It's not gonna go anywhere itself. News doesn't travel on its own. It travels through people. So you have to tell people, you have to put yourself out there, and there's different ways to do it. Like, yes, you might feel embarrassed. Yes, you might take pride in it. Whatever it is, if you really want to get big, if you really want to put yourself out there, you have to step out of your comfort zone and just do it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying. I think people are so afraid to show their work off to like their family members and what family members is because it's you're giving away a piece of yourself in a way. And when I notice when people ridicule a character, I know it's like when I sometimes I go on Twitter, there would be some sort of drama of the week, and every so often, if a webcomic gets big or webcomic gets ridiculed, say someone says this and this character sucks, and then the creator would take a personal offense to that
Yeah.
slight. And for me personally, I don't know if that's real or not. Like when I say that, I'm thinking this is probably outrage marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, no.
I think this year on Twitter I've learned the fullest extent of how well outrage marketing works, and it's so lame. But
It is, bro.
I'm just a hater. I hate I'm just a hater personally because
Right. Yeah.
with the that rage is like the best, or like negative emotions is the I think it's probably like the strongest emotion, and
That is
commodifying
true.
that in terms of, hey, if you want to get mad at my stuff because because it benefits the creator because it's a creation that's in everybody's mouth. That's a way of getting a
Mm.
project around by word of mouth, and that's
Right.
it's disappointing. It's like the darker parts of marketing. I rather annoy
Mhm.
people. I guess it's for my thing for my personal sensibilities. I'd rather annoy people by being everywhere than just have people just mad for no reason to
Right.
talk about
Yeah.
my stuff. It's like I said, it's to each his own. So it each his own. What are your thoughts on marketing? What are your thoughts on like outrage marketing?
Um, when people are talking negatively about your work, the truth is they're still talking about your work. You
Hmm.
see, at the end of the day, doesn't matter whether it's positive, negative. Like then again, I'm gonna take it to Naruto. People love the show, amazing. But then the fourth grade Shinobi War showed up, and people started talking about how bad the ending was, this, that, and the third, and they hated on the ending because of Kaguya and all that. Spoilers, my bad. But they hated the ending. But now that arc is possibly the most popular Naruto arc of all of Naruto, besides the Chunin exams. Like
Hmm.
people know that arc only because the ending was so bad, or maybe you watched it, but people spoke about it. Another thing with Attack on Titan, the ending. People say the ending was so bad with Eren, being Eren, let me not spoil. Um, and people are like, oh, the ending is so bad. And that's another thing that you were speaking about earlier, that the creator will maybe remove a character. I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard that the creator of Attack on Titan is going to release more chapters just so that he could like lighten the hate on the ending. And I heard he like publicly apologized for the ending. And it's like, why? Because it sucks that your work, your life work that you've been putting in work and hours, and you've been thinking about stories, plots, fights, and it all goes down as terrible because the fans don't like it. You see what I'm saying? So it is tough, but people are still speaking about it. Attack on Titan right now, like currently, is top five most popular anime, up there with One Piece, of course, the Gear 5 and all that. But people are speaking about it negatively, positively. You're still getting put out there. So it might be a fear for people to have their stories ridiculed, have their stories spoken about in a negative light, but it is what it is. People like not everyone's gonna love the story. Not everyone's gonna love Krilko. Not everyone's gonna love your manga. Not everyone's gonna love the next person's manga. But it's about what you can do and hope that it gets spoken about in a positive light better than a negative light.
Yeah, what you said about what he did with apologizing for his creation, that is such a bizarre thing to me because
Yeah.
I like what would put somebody in a position where if they spoke from the soul and if people didn't like it, why would they apologize for it?
Yeah, man, because he heard that people hated, like, I don't know if the ending was in 2021 in the manga, and people said it's so bad, terrible. And now that I've seen it, it really isn't that bad. People were overreacting, but they said it's so bad, and he had to come out and apologize. I saw a video of him crying on stage, like with like people, like he was speaking Japanese, so I couldn't understand, but there were like subtitles, and he was apologizing, and he just started breaking down and crying, and I was like, bro, why? Like, it is sad, but it's the dark reality, as you said.
That that is very interesting to me because like throughout like from the beginning to the middle parts, and like up until the ending, like everybody was loving it. That means that to me that
Mhm.
tells me he had a direction and an ending in mind for the conclusion for his thesis of what he wanted his story
Mhm.
to talk about. And when he said, because like if I like I said before several times, if every story is an argument, like Attack on Titan, I thought the argument that I see Attack on Titan is talking about is the escalation of war is just complete annihilation, you know? It's just complete
Yeah,
annihilation
yeah,
from one side to another. And if he wants to make a point counter to that at the last minute, I guess I don't know. I don't know the ending of Attack on Titan, but like knowing the end point of everybody hating it, and to the point that it makes him very apologetic to everybody's reaction. I just find that very
yeah.
interesting. I'm like, what did he do to make every man? What did he do to make everybody so mad? So
Yeah, man.
I like it's interesting. I should probably give it a watch or like have somebody spoil it for me because
Yeah, like his story, man. It's like it shows you that war, it always ends badly. You see what I'm saying? Like
uh yeah,
the show on Netflix as well, Top Boy. I don't know if you've heard about it,
I haven't. Can you
but
explain it to me a little bit?
it's about basically gang wars, drugs, all that, right? And in the start, the main characters who are selling drugs, their lives are amazing. They're at the top, they get all the money, they are famous in their little area, the summer house area. You know, they're all nice. But the ending is, I'm just gonna spoil it. Nearly all the characters get killed. Both the main characters die. And
Mm-hmm.
again, some people say the ending was bad. Why the characters have to die? But it shows you that stories are not just fantasies. They are fantasy stories that end all happily, but then they are realistic stories. And the truth about that is that will always end badly. The street life, the life of gangs, the life of drugs, it will end badly. Aaron decided to start a war. And then what happened? He got Aaron at the end. He dies as well. It really shows you that some of these stories need to be realistic, and some of these stories need to show you that not everything ends in a positive light. So again, man, it is sad. It really is. But you just gotta keep your head up and keep your story going. Keep going strong.
Absolutely. What do you want to see more in your field of creativity?
Uh, I do actually want to see more realistic stories being told. Yeah. I do love the powers, and of course, Kroko's gonna have powers. Like, come on. But I do want people to step out of the comfort zone and tell a bit more uncomfortable stories. Stories that can be sad, but don't make the whole manga sad. Come on, like nobody wants to cry the whole time. But show creativity. Don't be stuck in the box that the big three of anime, Naruto, One Piece, Bleach. Don't be stuck in that box that they created. Maybe step out, you know? And one thing that I see a lot is a lot of manga tend to focus on one character or maybe two characters. Flesh out your characters, show people that these characters have their own lives, they have their own problems, their own histories, not just one character, show his backstory, then that character. Also, a lot of exposition. A lot of exposition. There's too much exposition in some of these manga that I be reading. Like, I just turn the page and I see words. One Piece. I'm talking about One Piece right now. I think
Mm.
in the 700s, I remember reading it, and I would see it's just words. I'd finish the page, I'd turn the page, and I'd see again words. And it's nice, yes. Tell us about the story, tell us about the world, but sometimes it's just too much. It's overwhelming. So maybe cut down on the exposition, make the stories a bit more realistic, but it's up to you really. I can't tell people to make their stories realistic. They have a vision, stick to it until the end, and also as well flesh out your characters, make sure these characters have lives, show us these characters lives. And you know what, I'm gonna throw in another one. Don't be afraid to kill off some of your favorite characters, because sometimes there's something called plot armor. I get it, but sometimes it gets a bit obvious. Take, for instance, Goku. We all know Goku's gonna show up in Dragon Ball. A villain's gonna show up much stronger than Goku. He's gonna beat Goku.
Like death
Goku's
doesn't
gonna go
matter in
through.
Dragon Ball. Weirdly enough.
Yeah, it really doesn't, because the people come back. Krillin. How many times has Krillin died? Way too
But
much.
he's our guy. He's
Like, nah, like,
he
I
bagged an
get it,
android.
yeah.
Come on.
He did. How did he do that? Nah, actually, like low key, how did he do that? He's so like
Did he?
I don't get how he bagged Android 18. That's baffling to me. That's baffling.
I mean,
But it
like,
is what it is.
I think I remember. I think I had a friend tell me that like he made a wish to make Android 18 a human, so that would
Did
be
he?
possible.
Oh, now I think Android 18 only liked him because that was the first human to show sympathy for him. Because I think when Cell was absorbing or something like that, he tried to protect her, and I think that's when her eyes opened that well, there are humans, this and third who actually care for me, blah blah blah. But that's still weird. Like Krillin, I mean, that's a W. The W can't knock his hustle. He did that. Like nobody can say they took that away from him. He did that, and he even had a child.
Yeah,
So
all those deaths mattered at the end. It paid off.
yeah, it definitely did, man. That's why I say, be comfortable killing off some of the main characters. Like it's gonna be shock value, but don't do it too much because too much shock value just results in in just blood. Like at some point you realize, okay, they're showing this character a bit too much. He's gonna die, or they're speaking about this guy's mother. That guy's mother's gonna die. It gets a bit obvious. So stay tactical, and yeah, that's the stuff I want to see more. Just some people gotta improve, but I can't speak, right? I haven't really
Mhm.
done anything that I've shown people yet. I haven't really shown anything. So when Kroger comes out, I hope some people can start taking notes.
Yeah, yeah. I think I want to say you mentioned four things, and I want to like talk about like those four things in depth a little bit more. The one
Yeah.
thing that spoke out to me, like first and foremost, was drawing from reality, and I think a lot of these big three animes they do draw like a lot of these fantasies. Well, yeah, a lot of these fantasies in these big three animes or mangas they do draw from reality, and if in a way that connect in a subversive way that connects to everybody's like primal urges or a sensibility that everybody shares. And I guess for I guess we can start off with Naruto because we talked about Naruto for a little bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
the reality that everybody can share from Naruto is that everybody. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have felt like they can understand how Naruto feels when he comes from a guy from nothing that has no friends. Literally has like a has something that prevents him from reaching his goal, and his goal is
Uh-huh.
just he wants to be accepted in his in his village, his little village, to becoming the leader of that village, and from the entirety of Naruto. Well, there we go. I just want to make a side note. There we go. Another spoiler. Because that's his. He says it explicitly every time is that he wants to become the Hokage. That's a spoiler for. I
Uh-huh.
guess you could call that an entire spoiler of the show because he ends up becoming Hokage at the end. And throughout all
Yeah.
of Naruto, we see how many like the valleys, the highs and the lows that it takes to become to reach his dream, right? To finally be respected in his hometown, his village. And like at that that sense of working hard to achieve your goal is is uh is present in in a lot. Well, I'm not saying every because that's holistic, but like in a lot of these anime. And
Uh-huh.
even though we can't really take the baby out with the bathwater as soon as we start seeing like magic powers or like fantasy creatures and say this is not realistic because the one thing that's realistic to everybody is struggle and
Uh-huh.
you know, and struggle takes all these different shapes and sizes to the point where I would like talk to people where their struggles are like, oh wow, what are you, an anime character? What, like you got kicked out, you're living on the street, and now you're on the grind to make bajillion dollars. Like, come on, be real here. That's real to him, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So but because everybody can sense that, oh, since that place of being at the low and then being at the lowest of the ditch and then crawling out to be surface level and then keep crawling to be on the top of a mountain. Like that's something that a lot of people can relate to or wish that they can do to themselves. And at the end of the day, hopefully that they can aspire to crawl out of their own ditch and be on top of that
Uh-huh.
mountain, of their own mountains, and say, all right, I can do it too. I can lift other people up so we can progress as a people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really do agree with that because struggle stories they are nice to watch, especially if they end um with the main character succeeding. But then there are stories of people who are already in high standards and they just slowly go down to where they end up struggling. Take for instance the show Snowfall. Man, this is making me realize I watched a lot of shows, but Snowfall, again,
Can you explain
spoilers
that,
incoming.
explain that show a little bit
Yeah,
to me?
spoilers incoming. It is again. Wait, why do I watch so many drug shows? But
It's
it is
interesting.
about
It's interesting.
it
I
is about the
remember
main.
there was a season where I was just watching. I would watch nothing but prison documentaries, and
Yeah,
like I think it's because the orange.
no.
I think it's because of like the orange is the new black was the thing, and I was like, whoa, prison is pretty interesting. And then I just go on watching prison documentaries, and then for like hours and on end until I got bored and then moved on to something else. It just happens.
Yeah. It is quite interesting, really. The story basically, the character he lives in the hood, and he has a normal life. Like he goes to school, has friends. It's quite normal. But then he gets the bright idea to start making money. Now his family's already selling weed, but that's just locally, just small things here and there. So he goes to this Mexican gang and he starts selling cocaine. And his family, of course, doesn't approve of it. They don't mess with that stuff, but he says, nah, it's fine. He'll do it, blah, blah, blah. He does it. He gets rich, but the money gets to his head. He starts getting greedy. He starts cutting off his friends. He starts becoming cold. And by the end, he loses everything and he's just drinking. His life just went to shambles.
I
So
think
those stories,
you just
yeah,
hit. I think you just gave me a light bulb. The reason why drug stories are so interesting because they're essentially stories about shady entrepreneurship, like
right,
unethical.
right.
I think I would say like immoral entrepreneurship because I would say it's ethical in this. Like the ethics and morality can be two completely different things. Like an
Mm-hmm.
ethical is just treating your customer with cordially. But like if
Right.
but morally, but let's say like your customer is like a child trafficker or whatever. Like it's ethical to treat that customer cordially, but dealing with that
Mm-hmm.
customer, having business with that customer is immoral. So drug
Right.
stories are essentially like the immoral stories of entrepreneurship, and everybody has that. Like everybody loves. I guess everybody loves that feeling of, hey, I can. There's this avenue where I can be make something for myself from
Mm-hmm.
like what I have in my environment. And with a lot of these bad environments, there's a lot of drugs. And this is okay. I want to say, I shouldn't, I should have said this earlier. I'm not endorsing drugs. I'm not endorsing, I'm not
You're
endorsing
good.
any of this
You're
stuff.
good.
I'm just trying to make sense of it all right. But but continuing on, I think it's people taking everything from their surroundings and saying, okay, what do I know? I know people, and I know people have like drugs and illicit substances. If I can put two and two together, I can make something for myself. Again, don't do drugs. Don't sell drugs. Like throw it away.
Please don't, please don't,
It's like
please.
it's not good. You're not helping your community.
It
If
doesn't
you're
end
if you're
well,
dealing
man.
them.
It doesn't.
But that's something that came to my mind. What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, those stories they are quite realistic, and they show you that doing drugs or involving yourself within the drug circle, that it really doesn't end well. And the stories look like, oh, they're fun, but if you watch the whole show or shows till the end, you'll see the main character. He might be rich, but he lost his friends, or he might have all his friends, but he's broke, or he might have none. So it just shows you that these stories they're not nice. Another thing that I like watching are revenge stories
Hmm.
and stories about, like, let's say a character has been done wrong in the past. He doesn't come back and kill the person. He like slowly takes his time, he plans it. That's also something that you're gonna see in Krilko quite a lot. Is the story about a certain character. Well, it's actually three characters, but I'm not gonna say them all. And I can say this though. You see, Chacer. Yes, I added myself into the story. Uh, I am Jakura's father. That's the main character, by the way.
Hmm.
Jakura. I'm not spoiling too much. And yeah, Chaser, he did something with somebody. Now that somebody wants revenge. And those revenge stories, it can be bittersweet because maybe you might start taking a interest to the character that's about to be murdered slash done wrong, or it can be nice that you're waiting for this guy to get his revenge. And it's like the story of, again, Naruto. I don't know why we're talking about this so much, but Sasuke and Itachi. We saw how Itachi did Sasuke wrong in the past. He did this whole thing with the clan, and Sasuke came back, and he of course ended Itachi. Come to find out, it's not what Sasuke thought or we thought. Now, props to the creator because he didn't spoil anything. He didn't give any hints. Like, we fully thought that Itachi was an evil person. We fully thought he did that just so that he could test his power. You see, so those stories are quite nice to watch as well, cause or read, cause it just shows you things like not everything goes to plan,
Hmm.
as well as the realistic stories. Not everything will go according to plan. Some things will fail. Most of our plans will have deviations as long as you don't give up. Look at me being a motivational speaker.
I mean, like this. I want to let everybody understand that storytelling. When you're a storyteller, you're essentially a philosopher, and when you
Yeah.
understand, when you understand that, you can cut straight to the heart of what makes a story good, because you're essentially bringing people into a, a light, a point of
Mhm.
view, a philosophy, and you're using these characters as bridges to say, here's why this way of thinking can be beneficial or harmful depending on what they want to do or where you want to take the story. Because having the end goal in mind is having the starting point and then the end point in mind will make it really great when it comes to connecting the dots of like how the story is going to
Exactly.
go.
Yeah, yeah,
Also,
yeah.
another way to make that story interesting is what you said before, like with revenge stories and drug stories, how usually at the end they get what they want, but it's too late because it's too late for them to realize that what they want isn't what they needed. Because at the
Yeah,
start, at the
exactly.
point where characters like, I want what I want, and I want it so bad that I'll do literally anything for it. So you see like them descending to depravity, immoral choices, and at the end, usually if the stories ends with them getting what they want, they're at the lowest point of their own personal stories, or they end up dead because what we
Yeah.
want isn't what we need. So like
Huh.
that's how I think about it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that is true though. That is true because most of them they actually do end like that. And I like those stories because to the future, the kids, because nowadays kids are starting to do those stuff too, and they should watch these movies because these movies slash read these books slash read this manga even, because this stuff is real. At the end of the day, you could say, "Oh, it's just a TV show," cool acting, but the stuff is real. It really does happen. And
Mm-hmm.
another theme that I'm gonna be taking into Kyoko is trauma and what trauma does in the long run. There's this manga. It's called Chino Wadachi, or in English, it's Trail of Blood, it's something along those lines, Trail of Blood. But I know it as Chino Wadachi, and
Can you
it's
explain it?
about
Oh yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
It's about a child. I think he's 12. He's in middle school, yeah. And his mother has been protecting him for his whole life. Like his entire life, his mother's been by his side. At school, his mother was holding his hand. Like they were inseparable. And now the whole extended family, they always make fun of his mother for being so attached to her child, and even her child gets ridiculed because his cousins are like, bro, the mother's too protective, blah blah blah. So later in the story, the mother kills the son's cousin who was laughing at her in front of the son. Now her son sees the death happen right there, and he feels sick to his stomach. He wants to snitch to the police, of course, but he loves his mother. At the end of the day, that's your mother. As much as you can say, oh, she's overprotective for a reason, because she doesn't want you to go down her path, maybe, or maybe she doesn't want you to go down a bad path. So the whole manga just takes place of him just scared of speaking. Sometimes he's scared of talking to the wrong people because he's afraid he might slip. And he loves his mother to a point where it's too much, where they just both turn delusional, to a point where his mother begins to be manipulative and tells him that, nah, that death didn't actually happen. I never killed that child. You saw something else. You didn't see me. You killed the child. So she kind of plays with his mind, and he becomes so delusional that he actually believes he did it, and he believes that the mother never actually killed him. So that story, it showed you that the child, he did go through trauma. As much as you can say he didn't, he did. And the trauma of a mother is probably one of the worst in all of trauma. Like, that's probably the worst, because that's your mother. That's the person who, quote unquote, loves you the most. And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the story, or near the end of the story, um, the mother goes to jail because she actually turned herself in. She goes to jail, and the child goes to jail, but I can't remember for what. Oh yeah, he killed. You see, the cousin, right? The cousin who the mother killed. That guy didn't actually fully die. He's just paralyzed. He can't talk. He like he's extremely bad injured. Like he's very very badly injured. So for some reason, the child Seiko, he kills his cousin. He finishes the job, and they both go to jail. The mother comes out earlier for some reason. I still can't understand why that happened. Then they ask the mother to testify for the child. And she says, no, I don't know that child. I don't know who that is. That's not my child. And now that really messes up the main character, of course. Like, he spent his whole life loving his mother, thinking that she cared for him. But in all reality, she just gave up. She doesn't even know who he is anymore.
What do you think is
And
like the?
then the
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry?
What do you think is like the importance of killing off characters?
Um, I think for shock value also, but then again, to also drive your story, you need to kill some of these characters off so that your story can succeed. Because if you keep everybody, it's gonna end up like Dragon Ball. I mean, Frieza is still not dead. Come on, like the guy is still alive. He was the first big villain of Dragon Ball Z, and he's still with us. The same with Boo, Majin Buu. Cell is actually dead though, but you need to kill some of these characters off. And I'm not saying kill your whole cast off. Don't do that. But you need to. It is very important.
I think killing off characters needs to be more of a symbolic thing than an actual than like for shock value. You know, there has to be a
Mm-hmm.
reason for characters to die. Like the most though I guess when you are familiar with the hero circle, I think one of the parts of the hero circle is like the death of the mentor and all
Right.
that, and it's I guess it's I don't know how self-explanatory that is, but the reason why the mentor has to die, it's a symbolic thing for a character losing, it's basically losing his training wheels because and it's
Mm-hmm.
his time to pass on the torch for like all the stuff his mentor has taught him. And I guess everybody has felt that in like every way, every part of their lives when it comes to like the death of a father figure or a death of a parental or a death of a of any kind of figure or like the separation of any kind of figure that was heavily influential to them. And I think that can be, it doesn't need to be like a figure that's like a teacher figure, but it can be other parts of a person's life, as in a friend. And like if a friend dies, it needs to be a symbolic of like the story of you cannot
Mm-hmm.
just be reliant on other people, or you can't like it needs to drive the point home. If like it needs to drive the point home. Maybe if the story was about, like I said, if the story was about like you can't rely on other people, a guy who relies on other people, that everybody around him can either die or just separate from him, which is kind of like the second thing to death. It's like close to death. Then you don't talk to a friend at all, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
or like that separation. That you don't know if it's going to be permanent or not. Death is just a permanent separation from from like the life of the living.
That
but
is
like
true.
having characters just peace out is like a softer version of that. But I think a point of it is still can be like driven home. Of it's just you need to. It's just metaphorically taking the training wheels off of your protagonist. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that with Sully from Top Boy. I'm taking it back to Top Boy. Sully, the whole story. I'm not gonna explain the whole story, but the whole story, him and Shane, they are best friends, as you just mentioned, the friend circle, right? And they're best friends. Now, Shane is the one who's known to do all the tactical stuff, the smart moves, and Sully is the psycho, the one who just kills people, is trigger happy. He's the crazy one. The end of the story, Sully kills Shane. his best friend, and he doesn't last more than 10 minutes alone. He dies in the next 10 minutes. So it showed you that he was too dependent on Shane without knowing it. He always thought and he always believed himself that he was the better one, that he was smarter, he was stronger, he could survive easily without Shane. But the moment he got rid of him, in the next 10 minutes he dies as well. So I do agree with it. Killing characters, it shouldn't happen too much. Because when it does, again, just like I said earlier, it gets lame, it gets boring, it gets to the point where it's predictable.
Hmm. Yeah, I get you. I get you. I guess we can
Yeah.
do like a little bit more because we have two more to talk about from like the four that you said. The I guess I'll go on to the expanding on characters, and I think there's like a good balance of it because I feel like when the story progresses too fast and we are just being having characters thrusted upon us. And can you explain the expanding on characters? Like when you, I think
Um,
earlier in the conversation, you said that pe- that we focus on the main character too much, and then we had
oh yeah, yeah.
and we need to focus on like characters around. What are your? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, if you do focus on the main characters, please do, because that's the main characters, that's the people who drive your stories. But then you can't have a cast of, let's say, 20 people, and nobody knows who these 20 people are. They just know the people's names and maybe their power. You need to show people these other characters so that maybe eventually, if you do decide to kill them off, it's really crazy. But let me not talk about killing off. Let me speak about the characters. You need to flesh them out. People need to understand where the characters came from, why they are the way they are, their history, their backstory, so on and so forth, the people they know, their connections. And if you just do that, the story might be long. You might end up having a One Piece level story, but at least people will be able to appreciate the the amount of the amount of work you put into your world, to world building. And as you said earlier with the creator of Attack on Titan, that you said you were surprised at how much he thought about his story. You need to think about your story. Now, I'm not saying you need to have a beginning and ending in mind already. You could have a beginning and no ending, then you work to it, or maybe an ending but no beginning. But you need to know your story so that you can be a master at foreshadowing. Like the Attack on Titan creator, he foreshadowed almost everything. Like,
Except for everybody
like if
hating it at
you
the end.
yeah, nah, not as foul. But nah, like,
I didn't mean to be that mean.
uh, if you watch the show, right, you see how the show ended, boom. But if you go to the start again and watch the thing over, knowing what happens at the end, it's like it was all in your face. He tells it to you, but he doesn't tell it to you. That's why Attack on Titan is probably one of the most popular anime out there, because he showed everything to us, but he didn't show everything to us because nobody understood what the stuff meant until later in the story. So, foreshadowing, it is important. You need to flesh out the characters. You need to show um improvement. You need to show character development. That's also important. And yeah, that's how you make them, man.
Yeah. Okay. So like the last one that you said that you wanted to see more of, and how can you balance what you said previously with having too much exposition?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is so bad. Exposition. That's when you just lay it all out in front of the audience. You tell them everything. No, we want to experience it. Like, we don't want to read about your story, because if that was the case, you could have just wrote a novel. You shouldn't write a manga. You shouldn't make an anime. if you're just gonna tell us the story. We want to experience it. We want to learn new things with the characters. We want to see these things with the characters. We're gonna be shocked. We're gonna be happy. We're gonna be sad with the characters. If you just lay it all out, tell me this happened because of this and this, that, it gets a bit weird. And it's even worse in manga. Like anime, I've seen some anime that take a full episode just explaining the history of a country, let's say. Yes, that can get boring, but you could maybe skip it. With manga, you can't have, let's say, a 30-page chapter that's fully words, bro. You can't do that because it gets boring. Trust me. Maybe I just don't like reading that much, but I do like reading. But maybe I just don't like reading that much because with One
Mm.
Piece, again, all the pictures, amazing art, but I turn the page and it's just speech bubbles and they almost look black because it's just ink filled with words. And it really does get lame. It really does get boring as well. But I get it, but you shouldn't have too much exposition. Maybe try making the audience connect with the story. Find things out with the characters. Show it to us bit by bit. Don't just lay it out in front of us, because too much exposition, it can make for bad writing, maybe bad artwork, maybe bad anime, and then you don't get picked up, then it's long for you.
Nice, nice. All right, all right. One last question. How can people support your goal?
Right now, there really isn't a way to support my goal because I haven't put anything out. But maybe they could follow me on my socials to keep up because I do post sometimes on my socials, just showing people the work I'm currently doing on my manga. But if you want to support my goals, my dreams, I want from you to chase your own dreams. You know, get out of your comfort zone, do it. Start that manga, start that business. Do do what your heart tells you to do in it, and you'll be good. But if you really want to support me, just follow me on my socials. Can I shout out my socials?
Absolutely.
Uh damn, I have so many accounts. You can follow me on Instagram at Manjirou. If you know Manjirou, it's Manjirou, full stop, underscore, Chacer, Chacer. And yeah, that's my main account. And yeah, I'm thinking of maybe going back to YouTube because I was a YouTuber a long time ago. Back in my days, I was a YouTuber, but I stopped because I wanted to focus on school and focus on Krilko. And yeah, that's it really. I'm telling you, I'm saying it again. Y'all can record it. Y'all can clip this. I'm telling you from the heart. Krilko will be the greatest manga of all time. I promise you.
Nice, nice. Well, this has been the Drawing Solo podcast. My name is Mason McKinney, and I'm with.
Chacer.
And if you want to find out how to get inspiration from anywhere, make sure you sign up to the newsletter and get a free ebook that'll show you how to do so. My gift to you. Signing out.